Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in again. This is Chris with Laurel City Historical Fencing. Today, for this week's video, I thought I'd do a product review I've been meaning to do for a little while because I haven't seen any really out there yet. But this is on the Kingston Arms brand Sport Federschwert, or Feder. Now, a Feder is a type of essentially fencing sword that we use commonly for a lot of HEMA practice. It's kind of based off some designs that we have of surviving examples from the around 16th century. I know there's some in museums and things still, like there's a beautiful one down in the Met, things like that. But these aren't meant as war swords, they are meant specifically as training swords. So one of the things that we have in here is nice flexible blade and a schilt design, the way the blade kind of flares out here. I'm going to hold it off me so I can see a little better. So this shifts the point of balance back towards the hands a little more, so it makes it a little safer for training in terms of being able to control the point coming at your opponent. And it also gives us a little bit of extra hand protection here a blade coming down can catch. So that's just a little bit about what a Feder is in particular. As for the Kingston Arms one, well, what I have to say is overall my impression is pretty good about this. It is a very inexpensive sword to get started with. It runs, the MSRP I want to say is about $250, which is really inexpensive as it is, and there are plenty of secondary market types that have the sword for significantly less than that. I think the lowest I saw was around $170, $175, which for a steel training sword, even some of the great synthetic swords like the Purple Heart Penty or any of those, you're going to pay a little over $100. By the time you're paying shipping, you're paying $150. If you can get one of these for $200, if you can get that a little bit of extra, it's a good place to start, particularly say you're in a club with a lot of older members that all have steel already and and you want a steel to be able to practice with everybody. This might be a good place to start. In terms of the feel of it, I like the design. I mean, just aesthetically, I thought it was a pretty decent looking sword. There's a little bit of an indent here on the crossguard. Makes a nice place to put your thumb when you're gripping your sword. So it's just nice little thoughts like this. The pommel is nicely rounded off, so if you do any pommel strikes, it's a little safer. Same thing with the crossguard. Both ends of the crossguard have a little rounded flare to them. And then in terms of safety, I have a rubber point on this because that's kind of one of our standards, and I know a lot of people do that. But the point itself kind of flares out on this. It kind of widens out a little bit, which made getting the rubber stopper on there a little difficult, but that's a good sign. I don't want it to go on too easy, otherwise it's going to fly off in the middle of a fight. Now, overall, the sword is a little over like a hair over 3 pounds, so it's relatively light, but with the balance point right about where the schilt is, see if I can find it on the fly here, back here, oh, too far. With the balance point right here, it feels very well balanced, particularly with two hands. I would have no issue using this even single-handed in terms of the balance of it. Now, just to let you know some of the specs, like I said, it's about 3 pounds. Overall, it comes in just under 52 inches. The grip with the pommel is about 13, and then the blade itself is another 38 or so. Now, in terms of the functionality of the sword, I know a lot of people are going to be hesitant about getting inexpensive Feders, and I know Kingston Arms is distributed by Cas Hanway, or Cas Iberia, and I know they used to have an old design from, I think it was the Paul Chan, I can't remember, but they used to carry a Feder that was common for a while because it was, again, inexpensive, but they had a tendency to break. We've had some of these. We had some of the first prototype ones. I think we had 2 or 3 of those in the club, and then we've been able to get around several of the the full production run models, which seem to be a little stiffer in the blade. The early models, which was a limited run, tend to be a little more flexible. They were a little too thin towards the tip, and as a result, they ended up being very flexible. When you would go into some of the winding and things like this, the blade would bend and snap right back out and things, so it was a little frustrating. But again, for the price, these are something that we give to beginner students to work with. We're not going to use these in competitions or anything. Now, the issues we've had with them, I have to say, we haven't had anything too major. I don't know how well you can see in the video, but there are some little burrs and dings in the blade, but some of that you kind of expect because we're playing with steel, so that's going to happen. But these aren't just from being matched up against other Kingston Arms fetters. These actually, in class, we have several different types of steel training swords. There's a dark sword armory, there's a bunch of Regenis, there's a Arms and Armor, I believe it's the Fechterspiel. A lot of these different swords, which are much tougher essentially than this one and much more expensive. And the ones we've had in class as loaners, they've held up very well against them. The issues we've had with them have been particularly in the grip. It looks nice, but one thing that I have a feeling the wood that they use in the grip is a little bit softer. At least some of the ones we've gotten feels a little bit softer. After a month of heavy abuse in class, I can feel a little rattling in here, which, since it's a peen sword, isn't a big deal. I just hit it with a peening hammer and it usually works out. The other frustration we've had is it seems like the cord on some of them was done very quickly without a lot of real concern, especially considering the amount of abuse it's going to go through in solo drills and partner drills and sparring. So we had a few that started to come a little bit unraveled with the cord grip. But again, for the price, around $200, if the grip comes undone, all well. I have I was able to kind of rewrap one, put a little super glue on, it seems to be fine. Another one that it came undone towards the pommel and just unraveled during class about halfway up the grip. One of my students happens to do some leather working, so I was able to give it to him. He put a leather grip on it. Now it's no problem. Now the only other issue we've had with them was only with one, and I've heard this happened a few times with people that have had these swords, but out of the several hundred from the production run, it's only happened to a handful of. But what it was the sword breaking right about where that flex point is. Now, all the incidents I've heard of this happening have all happened in sparring scenarios and all early on with the sword. It hasn't been something where it's weakened over the course of months or anything like that. It has literally been the first night within a half hour, essentially, of using the sword. And we had that happen, unfortunately, one night while we were doing some sparring. Somebody came in with, I believe, the Zverschau, the horizontal cut, and someone else went to parry. And when the swords met, top part just kind of snapped off. We did send the broken pieces back to Cass in Tennessee, and they looked at them and they took care of it for us and everything, which was nice. The customer service on their end was excellent. I've never had an issue with them like that, but hopefully hopefully some of these, because again, this is the first full production batch, the second batch ever made. So hopefully some of the manufacturers can look at some of those defects that we've had in a few examples and are able to smooth out some of their production. So is this the best training sword you're going to be able to get? No, it's not. However, for the money, it is one of the best you can get for the money. Like I said, this MSRP on this is around $250. Out on the market, there are some places that have had it for $200, some places even less than that. So this isn't a sword that I would want to go into any modern HEMA tournament with. I wouldn't want to use this in any armored combat, anything like that. But when it comes to getting your first steel and being able to just get into class and get training, the Kingston Arms Feder is a good place to start. If you're looking for purchasing several Feders in order to outfit a class with loaner gear for new people, this is a good place to start. So it's something that will last quite a while. Like I said, we've had ours for a few months, and minus the one that broke instantly, we haven't had any issues with any of the other ones, other than minor, essentially cosmetic issues with the grip. Everything else seems to be holding up very well. So again, not the greatest sword ever, but a great starter piece to what hopefully will turn into, for a lot of students, a lengthy HEMA career as a martial artist and a swordsman. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our review video here. I plan on doing more of these, and I want to do some of these that kind of focus on the poor man's HEMA. I see a lot of reviews out there for high-end swords, Albions, and Leon Paul fencing gear, and a lot of really high-end stuff. And I thought we'd make some videos that were budget HEMA, some ways that people can get less expensive gear that maybe has some downfalls, but is able to outfit a new student or outfit a person that maybe doesn't have as much money and get them out on the field, get them training, get them practicing. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other requests for items, please send them our way. If you want some specific techniques analyzed, demonstrated in some of our videos, let us know in the comments below. Message us on Facebook. Get in touch with us. And we'll see you next week with more sword videos.